I'm Lauren.
And I'm Annie! Welcome to Burp Barf! Oh!
I have goosebumps.
Oh, man.
I have actual goosebumps.
Me too.
Woof. Annie and I, if you're not watching us on YouTube, Annie and I are in the same room together. And
We're in person.
it's a lot of feelings.
It's a lot
giving
of
me
feelings.
some tinglies in my nose.
I taste metal.
We're pretty hyped. We both drank some poisons.
All the poisons. The water poison, the caffeine poison, the alcohol poison.
Water, that's what I forgot. Fuck it.
Whatever.
It's
just like this weekend's adventure race. You don't need water.
I don't know how we did that. Don't know how we all survived on one backpack from 9:30 to 9 That's terrifying.
That's mad.
Our insides must have been made of fruit roll-ups by the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
That seems very bad.
So, we'll be dropping this episode along with another previously recorded episode, so you're gonna get hit with a double deuce when we drop this episode.
Pre-race, post-race.
Yeah, coming at ya.
Monster truck rally.
It's Sunday. It's fine. Everything's fine.
No,
we're fine. You're
not
fine.
Excited. You're excited.
And we should mention we're here in person because we both got our 2 shots.
Fully vaccinated.
Pfizer, Moderna, I got the vaccine. Up inside my Pfizer, Moderna, I got the vaccine. Up inside my Pfizer, Moderna.
I got the vaccine.
I feel it clean with the vaccine. I'm sorry, guys. This is going to be like 20 more minutes of this. So if you're on a long run and you need to hear something sensical, you're going to have to fast forward. So just know that's where we're coming from today.
Yeah, go listen to that Tim podcast or whatever makes you feel calm.
Uh-huh.
Not
this is not it.
This is not it.
This is not it.
No, this is fully vaccinated, monstered, banged, wine spritzered, freak out mode, Annie
thrusting
and Lauren.
our crotches at the camera madness.
Booty popping, crotch thrusting, hand slapping in real life.
Oh! You're there. I'm here. It's us.
We don't have to high five our own selves.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sweating and crying.
I am actually sweating. Okay.
Okay, and these t-shirts are so breathable. All right, so let's back up. We actually have to race cap.
Yes, we have to recap a couple of things. First, we want to give a shout out to our virtual racers being teat reaped as we speak.
Oh, yes.
So we've gone through 16 different date changes on the Sugarloaf Teat Reaper and settled on doing it virtually with people doing an attempt of 6 hours of the Sugarloaf course. Anytime between April 10th and May 10th. We're smack dab in the middle of that and have seen some great results so far. If you've done it, please make sure you submit your results so that we can have a nice cumulative table of all the juiciness going on. And if you haven't done it yet, no fear, you have 3 more weeks to do your attempt. So
stoked to see people on the course already on different days at different times, all spread out. We've got adventure racers, ultra runners, crossfitters, hikers,
cyclists. We've got some cyclists.
Cyclists.
So many teats being ripped and so many tits being ripped clean off.
Everybody loves a good loafie.
Also, we had an idea during the adventure race. Was it during the adventure race?
We had a lot of ideas.
We already know the name of our next race, and I'm going to put it right out there so that it doesn't, because it's going to come to fruition.
Oh, I went into a fugue state, so tell me about it, Annie.
I honestly can't remember now when we came up with it. Our next race will be called There Will Be Blood.
Oh, yes.
And it will be menstrual themed.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
There's enough, like dick and balls themed races and stuff. We're good. We need to catch up.
Beer, Sasquatch, and ball jokes.
Yes.
We're going to make some menstrual jokes
and
get the fuck on
board. And so it'll be called There Will Be Blood, and there will be specific awards, such as getting an additional award criteria or emblem of some kind if you are in fact on the rag during the event.
Oh, yeah.
So
you get a special award. This is something we've always wanted.
yes.
Running 100-milers while having your period, we do think that there should be a special
some kind of extra designation. Yes.
Yeah, you need either like a red belt buckle or you get another belt buckle.
Yes, another star.
Yeah, you get two. Yeah,
something
like that.
It will be the first race that you've ever done in your whole entire life that you think, I hope I'm on the rag.
Yeah, that'll never happen. I mean, wow.
Because let's be honest, we're all, anytime we do a race, 9,700% of the time, you end up being on the rag when the race happens.
And, yes, and actually just happened this past weekend during our race. And I would say this is a women's issues podcast, but I think that men can handle it. I hope that our fans certainly can handle it. Yeah, if you can free bleed, we highly encourage it because there's less waste going into the environment. You're not carrying a bunch of used product in your own packs, and also just like, who the fuck cares? Annie did BFC while free bleeding and just rubbed some dirt into her crotch.
It wasn't on purpose.
Oh,
but...
okay. Mine was a very purposeful free bleed just to like not upset my crotch any more than it was already upset.
So I want to get into the adventure race from this last weekend, the Shenandoah Epic Adventure Race so bad. But I do want to hear about you having a real race the weekend prior to that.
Yeah. I would say I had two peak experiences 2 weeks apart. And that's saying a lot given that my only racing has been virtual in the last 13 months. Uh-huh. And I had some minor peak experiences during my virtual racing, but I really trained really hard for the Fool's 25K.
The Fool's Gold 25K?
That's what Andy calls it, but that's not what it's called. It is in Peninsula at the Camp Manitowoc, which is a Boy Scout camp, which is one of our favorite things to do, is go to Boy Scout camps to compete. When we got there, the parking lot was full. And that, I was like, oh, well, maybe because it's a weird COVID year, I have a chance at winning because no one will be there. And then I found out that both of the races were sold out, and it was just absolutely packed.
Didn't you say it was like 250 people or something?
Oh, yeah. Just in the 25K, there were 250 people. And that's the sound of a short break.
Welcome back.
Yes, anyway, so I had trained a lot. I had done a lot of hill running and stairs and pretty beefy tempo runs on the weekend, which I usually don't do. I usually do long, slow. And so I went in not thirsty for blood, but really focused and really ready to compete, which is not always a place that I'm usually. Sometimes I'll be like, whatever happens, happens, and it's fine. I'll just do my best.
Yeah.
No, I was like, I would like to achieve my goals, and I will push very hard to get there.
And on the previous episode, I think you said your goals were to make sure that you actually did a warm-up.
Yes. Make
sure that you pushed in your middle miles. And did you say you wanted to do a negative split?
Yes.
A negative split and something else.
I wanted to place in my age group. So I did all of those things.
Oh!
Yeah! It was a very competitive field. The times were between 15 and 40 minutes faster than the previous years. It was a muddy course. Not like sticky peanut butter mud, but wet mud. So there were some sections where you're just slippy and sliding. The cool part about the start was that because it's shift timed, it was a rolling start. There were supposed to be waves, but it just turned out that as you arrived, you could just start whenever you felt like it. So
that's nice.
People were walking through the start, running through the start whenever they wanted, and when I started, there was no one else there.
Cool.
Which was awesome. It's a little bit problematic because you never know who you're racing.
I was gonna say maybe not when you're trying to be competitive.
Yeah, yeah. So somebody passed me at mile 2, and out of a 15.5-mile race, and I was like, okay, well, I got to keep an eye on her. And so I tried to catch her, and I think I caught her with 1.5 to go and passed her. Though, unfortunately, the way it landed was that she beat me by 30 seconds because of her start time, even though I was way ahead of her in the finish.
Gotcha.
But I ran super strong. I had a very solid playlist. My mantras were form will give function, where I was just making the perfect running form and then promising my mind that you will go faster if you run beautifully. So these are just new thoughts I've been having.
Okay.
In the last 2 miles, I thought, okay, I'm gassed and I have to go faster and I have to just dump out everything that I have. And I said to myself, just run 2 beautiful miles. Do whatever you need to do to make those miles beautiful. Like, use good form, have good attitude, take good breaths, don't ever walk a hill. Like, I was just like, run like a pro runner, run beautifully. And
the old running commercial approach.
Yeah, except for don't run like those people. And it was a long time to be in the pain cave, but I wanted it so badly, and I was so stoked to be racing, and I got 3rd in my age group, which, yay.
30 to 39, right? I mean,
yeah.
just the most competitive.
We'll call that the premier category, yes. Because that's where the freaking fastest women are.
Yes.
I don't think any women in the age category below mine beat anybody in my category.
Really?
So my category was very, very
Whoa,
fast.
Okay.
Very, very fast. And the swag was the ugliest swag I've ever seen in my life. Sorry, Western Reserve Racing. It was a hot pink fleece vest. Guys.
Wait, what?
Guys.
Like an Old Navy performance fleece?
Like a 1990s Old Navy performance fleece.
Huh.
So I got the men's, which was gray, and then I immediately donated it to Goodwill.
It's
terrible.
That's a niche thing.
Oh, it's just the most softball dad thing that they could have given out. But very well organized, very COVID safe, very fun course. Would definitely race it again. And yay. So, achieved goals. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about other fun shit.
That's the hell. This is like, I think about Lauren Fleshman not talking about, like, acknowledging just me opening another can of Ruby Grapefruit Wine Spritzer coming at you.
Wine Spritzer.
Lauren Fleshman talking about, like, pausing to, like, acknowledge your accomplishments and stuff.
Yes.
One of the things I've been thinking of is, like, not just, like, transitioning back into, like, air quote, normal life, but being like, holy shit, like, this is a thing that happened, like, you went and did an in-person race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
My God.
Yeah, I definitely fully sat with the joy of it. And actually, obviously, Fleshman helps me do that because I use her training logs. So once I'm done with the race, I sit down and do my whole race review, Fleshman style, and, talk about, like, take a moment at that finish line and be like, you did what you came to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent like a week sitting with that. So I'm very, very stoked on that race.
What was your meal afterwards?
I had a strawberry banana milkshake.
Oh, yeah.
A chocolate bar.
Good. What kind of chocolate bar? Just like
dark
a straight,
chocolate, just like
straight
dark
rich
chocolate.
dark chocolate.
And I think I made like homemade post-race food because I've been on the whole food tip. So I've been making like quinoa or farro salad mixed with vegetables.
Yeah, me too. I've also been bringing Cheez-Its from home and eating those post-race.
I just see my recovery times being so lightning fast when I eat
clean.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's not fun and it's not what I always want to do. But my recovery time has just changed radically.
Yeah. No thanks.
It's not for everyone, and it's also not for me all the time.
Yes. And it's funny, like, just being able to recognize, like, the ebb and flow of this. Like, I can start to feel, like, coming in where I'm, like, getting itchy to be doing, like, hill repeats and stuff. Like, I keep telling Andy, I'm like, I keep daydreaming about, like, driving to, like, Clear Creek or, like, Great Seal, like, and doing a bunch of hill repeats and then staying the night, sleeping in the new van, doing hill repeats in the morning, and then coming back to home to, like, work.
Whoa.
Because it sounds like therapeutic to just go and, like, chug along for a while. And
I don't have even that level of lust. I just want to eat quinoa.
Can we talk about the irregular race?
Yeah, we can. So, this past weekend, Annie Lang.
Hold on to your butts, people.
Laura Comtois and I fully fucking accomplished the Shenandoah Epic 24-hour adventure race. And that, for the uninitiated, entails trekking, paddling, And mountain biking.
Oh man, there's just like so much in this last weekend. There's so much.
Yeah, wow.
I had so many feelings. I had so many physical things that I got to experience, mental things, social things. It was so many things.
I think this is good to have a real download like this because I don't think that you even really talked about how you felt post-race. I think we just kind of like on the way home and no one really talked about anything.
We did
other than like farts and chicken nuggets.
Yeah, we did.
I don't think we ever covered our actual feelings about the race, so this is good that we're doing this
Yeah,
now.
It is good. I've become super delusional about it already, so that's encouraging. That's, par for the course.
I have to.
Yeah.
Because every time I do an adventure race, if anything passes 20 hours, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is my last one. And that's like famously what ultras do to you. You have to promise, like, this is my last mile that I'm ever going to run.
It's funny. It occurs to me that it may be because we're out of practice of like experiencing the thing.
No, I always hate it.
Yeah,
no.
I guess for me, as I was going through it, I was like, there is no way I will forget how much this sucks.
And then
we'll do it again.
And a half later, you were like, I can't wait to do a 36-hour race.
Yeah, essentially a day later, I was like, that was awesome.
Wow.
I did awesome.
The pain amnesia is actually much faster from adventure racing than it is from 100-milers.
Yeah.
100-milers, you can spend 5 whole days being like, and that's it, and thank you, and I bid you adieu.
And they're so ouchy. Like,
yeah, they're way more ouchy. Like, I feel like my feet aren't blood bags. I don't have any blisters. I don't have, like, the awesome thing about adventure racing is you get to be off your feet for a lot of time.
And you get to rotate through stuff. So, like, I definitely feel like adventure races are harder, like, all in a whole harder, but they are not as painful.
They're not as painful, but they are mentally tougher.
Although, I would wonder what somebody who's performing at a higher level would say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they're not redlining, but I
it might be orange lining.
They must be orange lining.
Okay, so to back up. So, the Shenandoah Epic Adventure Race put on by Adventure Enablers was essentially in the Shenandoah, is it a national forest? National park?
Something forest.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if it's a state forest or not. I think it's national.
I was calling it that.
So we're going to say...
Yeah, Shenandoah National Park.
Okay, Shenandoah National Park. Which is a beautiful area. The Appalachian Trail goes through there. The Massanutten 100 goes through there, which is, some tough stuff. It's beautiful. One of the things during the race director's pre-race talk is he was talking about how the Redbuds were going to blow our mind. Mm-hmm. They did not fail to deliver. So flowers and bluebells, it's the most open forest I've ever seen in my life. So open forest means that there are trees, but there's not a lot of shit underneath. There's not a lot of briars. There's not like a shit ton of rhodo. It was remarkable. So it was the perfect time of year.
It's unusual to have that level of visibility in the woods and also just like not have to do the Frodo crouch when you go through the woods.
Continuing to get Willy Wonka smaller and smaller down the hallway.
Yes, that's refreshing.
So we get to the area, we get our maps pretty early the day before. All three of us kept saying to ourselves, like, I feel like we should be doing something else, but because of COVID, a lot of things came out earlier than normal to make sure that there wasn't any big groupings or times where people had to all be together at once, which was great because it was great to sit with the maps in the Airbnb and start to noodle through the route. And especially because I was very nervous about my navigation for this because I haven't done it in a year. I just felt like super like rusty. And I'll get to more of this later, but just like felt insecure the whole time. Like I just felt like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this works.
Wow.
Not to mention I feel like that anytime on these bigger races because it's so navigation dependent.
Man, I feel very guilty about this because I essentially feel like I've gone down into the berth of the boat and like essentially taken a nap in a big comfy bed while you're up on the deck, like steering a giant ship through rain. And I'm like, I think we're going somewhere good. Feels regular. Feels like where we're supposed to be going.
Yeah. But
I'm just totally oblivious to that struggle.
Yeah, so like, but that's that is one of the things that I don't mind carrying that mantle to be like a female navigator, like I feel that's pretty fucking cool.
I'm usually the guy who does your sort of like secondary map check. But Comtois actually has more experience than me, in navigating, because she's been adventure racing for 15 years. I've only been O racing for like 3, and I'm not good at it.
You've gotten way, way better, though.
And not for lack of trying, for lack of caring. Let's just be honest.
Also, I want to point out this race gave out 2 sets of maps, which was just glorious because there were some key points. And also, I feel like race organizers hear this. I feel like giving more sets of maps to teams so that more than one person can navigate or at minimum follow along at a time cultivates more people being able to get into adventure racing, because I do feel like that's a limiting factor. You know, it's like, okay, we want to have more females in the sport. We want to have more all-female teams. If you don't have more female navigators, that's a bottleneck.
And it's also just a good way to learn is to be watching somebody make the decisions on the map.
I learned it from watching you.
But you actually didn't, so that's funny. That's extra funny.
So we got the maps. I did what my typical thing is, which is like draw out the route and think about it for as much as I can stand, and then at some point be like, well, that's it. My brain doesn't want to focus on this anymore. Let's talk about what fluid we would lactate if we had a choice.
That's actually what happened.
So that's actually what happened. So that was the night before. I think we all got a great night's sleep the night before.
Oh my God,
which
the
was
most beautiful. I slept on the side porch in a 3 Seasons room with the windows open and looked at the starry night sky.
It was dope.
It was awesome.
The next morning the race started at 9. We stood in a circle. There was almost 100 teams there, which was really cool and strange because it just felt like jumping out of the alternate dimension we've been in into the one where nothing weird happened.
Yeah, people were very respectful. Everybody gave space. Everyone wore masks. People were like very, very cool.
Yeah, it was really good. And so we're like standing in this giant circle facing each other, getting ready for the prologue, which is essentially
overhead.
Yes, which is essentially when the prologue for an adventure race is whatever thing the race director comes up with to string people out so that you don't have big clumps of people trying to start the course right away. And our first one, we started at a Lutheran camp called Caroline Furnace. And our prologue was to go to 7 different spots within the camp to gather fire making supplies and then bring that back to the main fire pit, which was really fun because one of the things for us generally is that after a race starts, we are alone very fast.
Yeah, and we ended up being around other people for I think the prologue was about 45 minutes for us, and we got to see all of the other teams coming and going, and so you get to see everyone's faces, see their gear, peep their cool matching outfits.
Yeah.
It was cute.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, just being able to go through that and we walked that part pretty much the entire time except for some gentle downhills, which was really good level set. It was also really nice because whether you're an adventure racer, orienteer, or neither one of those things, inevitably you usually fuck up.
Oh yeah, we almost always go the opposite direction of the first checkpoint.
Something just happens where you're like, wait, is my pace counting for 1,000 meters? Is that 1,000 meters or 10 meters or 100 meters? Yeah, or generally we'll blow a mile by the first checkpoint and then be like, this looks weird, I don't get it. Or just oh wait,
we didn't do that this
somehow
time.
I'm back to my house. No, we didn't do that. We didn't do that, which was that was very reassuring.
It cracked me up because the race director was like, pick up the cone next to you and your instructions are in the cone. And he was like, make sure you read them very carefully or you will not be able to finish. And I think people immediately did not read them because we saw a ton of teams pick up a log and run with it.
Yeah, it was very confusing. So we essentially ended up picking up a tiny square of pressed sawdust and then 6 different kinds of matches. That was essentially the things that we needed to gather. And I think some people, whether for shits or giggles,
no, they thought they had to make a fire, and they thought, I will get fire making tools, which includes a log. And so people, the lead teams were running around with logs in their hands, and we're like, wonder when we get the log.
Yeah, and we kept waiting to get our log, and it was
it's
just more matches.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just more matches.
So, completed the prologue in the beautiful morning light and perfect temperature.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was a
gorgeous.
beautiful start.
Yeah.
So, and during that time, we didn't have to have our packs on or anything like that, which was, again, it made for a really nice, settling start to kind of like shake the hibbly-bibblies off and be like, okay, here we go.
Yes.
So we get on our out there packs. Out there.
For adventure races.
And we started towards the very first official leg of the adventure race was about a 10-mile trekking portion, and the majority of it, what?
I forgot it completely. I have no idea what it looked like. It's gone.
So it was like pretty much all on trail. It was that lovely like trail along the ridge, like it like.
Oh yes. Yes.
If I was in different shape, we would have like sprinted that whole part because it was like super like not technical.
Okay.
It's where our team went poop for the first time. So
It's
that
where we
was
met
great.
Pearl Jam. We almost got killed.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
Okay.
we almost got killed.
Okay, we almost got killed, and we met this really cool guy who knows all the Pearl Jam songs. I was trying to remember, and I'm sure you guys have heard this podcast where I did Tunnel Hill, and there was a Pearl Jam song that made me question the meaning of my entire life. And I could not remember what it was, and so I'm rolling through all the Pearl Jam songs I know, and I'm sure I'm annoying the fuck out of Annie and Laura, because every 5 minutes I'm like...
not at all. And at one point I asked, like, some younger hikers that were coming at us, not affiliated with the race, I was like, hey, which Pearl Jam song had blah, blah, blah in the title? And they just completely ignored me. They were not interested.
Yeah, they're also 20, so they probably don't know who Pearl Jam is. So I thought, you know what? The demographics of an adventure race are... The Venn diagram of Pearl Jam listeners and adventure racers is there's a high level.
I was gonna say they're the same circle. Nearly.
They're almost the same exact circle. So, a team of a 3-man team was coming up behind us while we were doing sort of a slow climb on a very buffed, beautiful trail, and they were moving about the same speed as us. And I turned around and I was like, "What Pearl Jam song has the title?" Like Black in the title?" And he was like, "It's called Black. It's the last track on 10. And I was like, "Will you sing it?" And he was like, "Yes." And he sang it for us. He was like, "Actually, I have the entire record memorized from start to finish, because when I was a lifeguard, we weren't allowed to listen to music
the year that album came out.
In 1992, I was a lifeguard, and so I would play the entire record in my head, and that was as long as one of my shifts. And then it was a break for like the lifeguard to like blow the whistle. That's the exact amount of time, and I was like, that is so oddly specific, bizarre, and awesome that you know everything that I needed. Thank you so much."
Yep.
And we called him Pearl Jam for the rest of the race. He was not entertained by my screaming Pearl Jam lyrics on the rapids, though. He was just dead.
Oh,
like,
I don't...
Flat FX.
Maybe it was a different Pearl Jam. You never know.
Maybe a different Pearl Jam guy.
Yeah.
So directly following that...
Yeah, wasn't it like right after that?
Right after that, 2 women on... a horse and a...
No, they were both mules.
Oh, okay.
They were both
2
mules. And we happened to be at that time, because again, we are still not alone, dear listeners, if you can believe it. Like, I expect at every single race to be completely alone for 85%. But we were in a pack of like 8 people.
Quick note is that when the race director asked us when we were a giant drone circle, how many people for whom is this your first 24-hour race? 50,
yeah.
I would say 40 to 50% of the people raised their hand. And how many people have never raced an adventure race? And I would say maybe 10 hands went up. So there were noobs to the format and noobs to all of adventure races.
Which is dope.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
It's great. We'll get to some interesting information about those demographics soon.
Yes. So we're in this herd of like 8 people as we're coming up to mules, and having grown up around horses and having done trail riding and stuff growing up, I
knew just what to say to the mules.
So I was asking her like, "Hey, do you want us to pass you? Do you want to pass us? Like, should we be quiet? Should we?" And she asked us to stay still and be on the downhill side of the trail while they went past us. And so as they're going past us, it's these 2 mules, and they weren't draft mules or anything, but they were horse sized. They were not donkeys. They were mules, and they go to come by us, and the first one, Waldo, all of a sudden catches sight of, like, one of us adventure racers standing there. And we're all, like, all of us are being very compliant, doing exactly what she asks us to do, standing marble
very
still.
Yes.
But Waldo catches sight of one of us and
spooks.
And, like, he tries to go like uphill on the trail
and does a full circle on a very steep off camber.
Yes.
And I'm surprised he didn't lose his rider.
Yes. And so me, Lauren, and Laura squished to the sides because we're like, oh yeah, we're not.
It looked like he might fall down onto the trail, onto the four guys behind us.
And so the rider was like, yeah, it's okay, like he's just a baby, like we'll just stand here. And oh man, I have to give so much credit to the guy behind us because Waldo was just like standing, like she just had him standing there to like catch his breath, reorient himself, whatever. And Waldo is standing like facing essentially the way we're going on the trail with his ass just straight up in this dude's face. This dude is just standing there completely still.
He would have been annihilated.
Right behind this mule's ass. Like, and he's just looking at us like...
That's the worst place you can be in an adventure race.
And he's just like making this face like... but he's not moving. I give him so much credit. And so all 8 of us stay still, waiting for Waldo to chill out. She brings him like back down the hill onto the trail, continues on their way. Nobody gets hurt.
I know, but the dudes behind us were peeved because they mentioned to us later when we were on the trail. They were like, "Seriously, kind of fuck you, dude," because we all could have gotten just like killed by your horse.
And she was like, and the rider was just like, just stay still, which I totally get it. She was trying to like prevent anything worse from happening, but like if one of us had gotten hurt, that would have sucked pretty hard too.
Yeah. Also, it's like, yes, I know that. It's a 24-hour race. It doesn't matter much. But it's like, yes, I know you're racing, but can you also all hold still for 6 minutes while I turn my mule around? It's kind of like, lady, go away.
Yeah. So that was wild. And that was just within the first couple.
We got to chug through because we've already spent like 10 minutes on the mule and we haven't even gotten to racing.
The mule was super important. Super important. So we continued to do the trek. We had a pretty big climb. We actually, I got to try towing with Laura towing me uphill, which was really great because I have no problem saying this. My fitness out of the 3 of us was behind Lauren and Laura. So like when you're racing as a team, you can only go as fast as you can get your slowest person to go. So it was super helpful to do towing on the trekking part. Got through the navigation, I think, completely.
Yeah, totally fine.
Totally eventless.
No problem.
And then we got to transition to the paddle, which the paddle was 17 miles long, and I feel like
so long.
I feel like somebody who is more experienced in navigating would quote that in kilometers. I don't know kilometers.
It was long as hell.
It was long. So we got to get into our canoe with 3 of us. Luckily, we had the epiphany the night before of like, there's 3 of us in the canoe. Where's the middle person? What they gonna sit on?
Because there's no seat in the. I don't know if you're familiar with the canoe, but there's no seat in the middle. There's just a wooden stay.
Yeah. So luckily we had packed a little Playmate igloo cooler that I sat on for the duration of the paddle. And don't feel bad for me, folks. It's the happiest I've ever been in a canoe.
That. I would have been so mad to be in the middle.
Oh my god, it was glorious.
So you don't usually put your captain in the front. Your captain usually goes in the back. But in this case, we needed 2 captains because we needed someone to steer and we needed someone to tell us how to canoe.
Yeah, because we don't know how to do that.
We don't. We suck at that. And Laura has a tremendous amount of experience on the water in many different formats. Kayaking, supping, bodyboarding? What is it? Boogie boarding? She has experience in some weird water
Also, it's
stuff.
just in her genes because, and I just want to quote this because I think it's fucking dope.
Oh, yeah.
Her dad did canoe whitewater racing.
Alone in the canoe. What? No one's heard of that sport.
I've never heard of canoe whitewater racing. It sounds terrifying.
So we were very lucky to have her. So basically, Annie and I were just the dumb muscle in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Just like, I wouldn't even say what to do.
I don't even think I was muscles because I'd be like paddle, and then I'd be like, I need to check the map like so that I know what's going on. Like I did not paddle nearly as much as you 2 did.
I was giving my 110% to trying to keep us straight because the water was faster in the center and also moving on the sides. So it wanted us to go zigzag and I was trying to keep us in the middle. So I was paddling my freaking guts out the whole time. That was probably the hardest effort of the entire race for me was keeping the boat straight.
Whoa.
It was fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
we had a lot of great moments on the paddle. I think mostly it was just feelings of being efficient. Our paddle experience the last 2 times has just been like, well, I don't know.
And then we're like, we're done.
Yeah, we kind of did it, but everybody that came near us
we were in the water for like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and we were like, we don't want to do any more of that. Let's go back to the bicycles, which in the end, maybe not my favorite.
Yeah, and no sleep when we did that, because this is... Remind you, this is our 3rd adventure race, and we didn't adventure race at all last year. When we did the paddling for no sleep, it was pretty calm. We got through one tricky section.
Oh, we had to go up water to get on a bridge.
Yeah. But this was our first time. Like, if it had just been me and Lauren, it would have been a much different outcome. So I was so grateful for Laura.
We had to go through rapids probably 5 to 8 times.
Yeah.
And I've never been in rapids in a canoe, so... Laura knows how to read the water, where like the tongues are and the eddies are. She knows how to like read where we're supposed to go, and she would just tell us to keep cadence up and not to hold the gunnels, which was exceptionally helpful, because now when I look back at the Facebook pictures, I see that all the people who went down. The first shot in the series of 4 is someone grabs the gunnel, then a foot goes up, and then the boat is upside down. So. That was very helpful, because it's not very intuitive. Like, you want to hold onto the boat to, like, feel safe, but that's literally going to tip you immediately.
But yeah, it was such a good combination of Laura shared that the paddle section is, like, that's serious time for her. So it was a good combination of, like, her wanting to ensure that everything went as well as possible, and also being okay, like barking orders, and us being like, we have no idea. Like, say whatever you want. We will do whatever you want.
We loved it.
So it was.
Tell me how to paddle.
Oh my gosh,
dirty little bitch.
It was just awesome.
It was the best to feel like we were in good hands.
Also, we passed people in the boats. We never pass people in the boats.
At least 5 boats.
That never happens.
It was amazing. Also, we should let you know that at least 20 to 25% of the boats went capsized.
Ass over teacups in the rapids. We did not, so it was great. So there was about 8 checkpoints on the paddle section. However, you pulled out your boat, you would do 4 checkpoints, continue on, then pull out your boat, do 4 checkpoints. I will admit, and every race is different, and especially with like permissions and stuff, I was bummed that we didn't have any checkpoints from the boat.
Me too. I like that. I like to paddle in, get the checkpoint, and paddle out.
I like to fun. Put the canoe into the bushes on the island and get it.
I do like that.
And also like it was a pain in the ass to transition from being in the paddle to trekking, because it was like, okay, change your PFD, put your pack on, change this, whatever, like dump the water out of the canoe.
PFD sounds so gross.
Yeah. Change your diaper.
Yeah, take your PFD out of your butthole.
So like the first time we pulled out to do 4 on-foot trek points during the course of the paddle section, and luckily we're not unfamiliar with this, where there's like fire roads that are marked on the map that aren't there, or they're in a slightly different spot. So we went for the first checkpoint, couldn't find it, continuing on a bit. We're just talking about what we're going to do next. Laura's not looking for it, and she just says,
I got it.
I see the checkpoint. We were so like not sure exactly where we were.
But it was still freaking rad.
It was so rad. Like we were not sure. We were so not sure where we were. We didn't know exactly which checkpoint number it was.
Also, no one else did. There were 4 other teams around us, and they're like, we're looking at this and we don't think we are where we see we are.
There was a lot of people on that first trekking leg.
Like, none of this map makes sense to us.
Yes.
Also, meanwhile, when you feel like you're on a remote island that you've gotten on from a boat, and you hear dum 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 dum.
That's
dum,
right.
Dum, for the whole first 2 checkpoints, there's like either like a music festival going on. Oh, I think there was like a
campground.
There was a campground filled with Hispanic people who were listening to Tejano music.
It was a campground that had a porta potty at every single camp spot. There was 50 porta potties.
Let me tell you that Shenandoah loves their porta johns.
I've never seen so many porta johns at a campground. The one that was
out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, I was like, who cleans this and why?
There was a lot of porta potties.
Also just hidden porta potties randomly in the woods.
Maybe they're just that serious about the river health. Maybe.
Okay. Don't shit in our river.
So in that first on-foot trek section from the paddle, we found one of the 4 checkpoints using skill. We found one by good fortune of watching other people happen to go for it. 2 of the 4
Laura just popped off with her eyeballs.
And again, she spotted them, which happens, but we were not even looking for them. No. She just happened to be like...
She turned her head left and was like, pop
there it is.
Wait, what? Why? It's not supposed to be there. And she's like, but there it is.
And we were there it is.
Okay, and I was the rabbit, which finally gave me some meaning in my life, because not being the secondary map guy makes me feel like, why am I even here? I'm just a liability.
It's wild though, and just think that's like the traditional adventure race structure. Is that like...
I know, and I'm sure everyone has their own insecurities about like what they can and cannot do in an adventure race, except for maybe Laura, who's like, I know how to do all that. But the rest of us normal people are like, I'm no good at this. I can't even ...
Not me. I'm upstairs steering the boat in the storm.
And I'm just downstairs sleeping and eating an open can of beans.
Yes. So we get back into the boat. We go on. We get to the rapids. So the rapids was in between the first and second trekking section off of the paddle. Which was, it's funny, because to me, like, the rapids were, yes, they were challenging. A lot of people dumped their boats. I thought it was harder to go through the rapids and then have to pull out, like, immediately. So
it was very scary to have to come in during fast water into the like, docking station.
And I think it probably doesn't help that when you and I did no sleep, that's how we dumped our canoe, is like turning into a pull out.
You go long ways and then the water's rushing so fast that you immediately tip right.
Yes.
And thankfully Laura was like, don't!
Yep. So
the second TA docking area that we got into was just like slick
so
mud.
Much fucking mud.
People fell so many times just getting out of their canoes and
me included.
put their pants on. Just like everybody just went down.
Yeah.
You did go in.
Yeah, and there was a lot of boats when we got there, and like the people coming out from having finished finding those 4 checkpoints,
they didn't look good.
They did not look happy.
Good. They looked not happy.
Everybody looked pretty like beat up or tired or crestfallen. And we had talked about, so there was 4 checkpoints to get on that leg, and we really wanted to get off the paddle before dark. So we gave ourselves like a 45-minute time limit while we were there. And so we actually started to head towards one checkpoint. We're going up this reentrant. We're like storming through the water. There's like slippery rocks. Lauren falls and takes a chunk out of her hand. And again, we're just seeing all of these people coming back like, and it's like...
Also, the water is bone-chillingly cold, and we have to walk through it no matter what. So all 3 of us on both paddle section treks, we were all like visibly shaking. Yeah. We looked pathetic.
Although it was good for me because I just don't generate much heat on the paddle. Like I was like, as we started being on foot, you're just kind of doing that like, like trying to move your arms as much as possible. But we started going to one checkpoint and then we were like, fuck that. And then we started going to another checkpoint and we were like, nope, fuck that. Yeah. And then Laura was like, let's climb up to the top of that thing and get to the next one. We're like, let's do it. And if that tells you anything, like it was a on all fours climb up this hillside to get to, air quotes, the easy checkpoint to navigate to.
And going up that, everyone around us was like, how are you guys going to get back down that? And we were like, on our butts.
On our butts.
But as soon as I was walking up it, I was like, this is going to be brutal. I mean, it was like shopelopey.
Yes, it was shopelopey. So we went out on this ridge, got our checkpoint, started to come back. People were like, oh, did you get blah, blah, blah checkpoint? And we were like, no, we got this one. We're leaving now. Goodbye.
Good day, bid you adieu.
So we got back, we did the whole transition to get back into the boat. And like, this is a learning experience for me too, as far as like navigation and route planning. Like we had 3 different instances where essentially we did a longer out and back to get to one checkpoint, and combining the time from those three one checkpoint out and backs, we could have used that to hit up our checkpoints on the last bike leg. And it would have probably been more beneficial, but
hard to know.
You live, you learn.
That's right.
So we get back into the paddle for the last stretch, and we're kind of feeling like It's a great thing about adventure racing. As soon as you get towards the end of whatever leg you're on, like you start in the canoe and you're like, yay, we're off of our feet. And then you get to the end and you're like, fuck this fucking canoe.
Yeah, you burn out. Eventually
and then you
burn out on any leg.
And then you get to the next section, you're like, yeah, I get to plop on my bike. And then you get to the end and you're like, fuck my fucking bike.
I don't know that I burnt out too hard on any leg other than feeling cold in the paddle.
Yeah, so the paddle, so when we got out at the Downriver Canoe Company strategy, whatever.
Yeah, whatever that's called.
We were transitioning. We actually had a short trek leg that we could do before we got on the bikes for the long haul, but like
there was a refugee moment in
there.
there.
We had to walk from where we pulled out the boats. I mean, it was like maybe a quarter mile, like not even a quarter mile from where we pulled out the boat to where we got to our change and stuff.
But a huge paddle
it was
bag.
cold.
The paddle bag was full and wet and heavy.
Oh,
and we were carrying it and our oars, and I was just like, this is wow.
Felt real grumpy butt.
Hard.
Felt really grumpy butt at that point.
And then we started to see people drop.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. So now we're at transition area 3, 2, 1.
And we got to that transition area.
Yeah, transition area 2/3, depending on how you count it.
And somebody who had gone down in the paddle had busted his knee open on a rock underwater and had decided that his new purpose in life was to assist everyone out of TA2 into the next
by getting them Mountain Dew, which is great.
So he came up to us, he's like, who needs cold Mountain Dew? And I was like, yes, please.
But like, so I think for us, anytime we're transitioning onto the bike, it seems to take us a while. I need to look at the time, but like at Nationals, it took us a long time.
It did.
This race, like,
a lot of gear.
It still seemed like it took a long time.
There's just so many moving pieces parts when you get on the mountain bike, because it's like, we're almost always on the bike at night, so we need to get headlamps, bike lamps, make sure everything on your bike is attached to your bike, and also, by the way, maybe my saddle was not on my bike for most of the end of the race.
Makes me think of the would you rather run a marathon in wooden shoes or ride your bike 100 miles with no seat.
Saddle. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of oopsie doodles.
Also, so this should have been a moment of like a little bit of a rejuve. However, I had taken my extra clothes, my warm clothes to change into for the evening.
So bad.
It was in my pack, which was in my air quote dry bag, which I verified my listing on Amazon, and it says waterproof.
Oh, it's
so
not.
Like I did not pull that out of my ass. So my like tights and my warm shirt that I was going to change into are soaking wet. Not just kind of
ghetto-ass storage sack with a roll top.
And not just kind of wet, like soaking, like slap it against the ground wet. And like I had even made a decision prior to the race to not just bring my normal tights, but to bring like my like fleecy winter line tights, because I was like, my legs aren't, like with the wind of biking, they will be very cold.
But question now. I mean, we'll get to more of your wet pants because it sucks so bad. But
yes, let's get into my wet pants more.
But in the end, were you okay with your shorts?
Yes, but it was very hard.
Oh, okay. So it was not comfortable.
Not for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I took Annie's pants and ran them to the fire and leaned them over 2 cones to try to heat them by the fire, and we were all kind of like, ooh, this is not gonna work. Anything.
It's not gonna work.
So she had no long sleeve, no long pants. Going into what was about to be a very cold night, and we were warned that by morning it was going to be like 39 to 40 degrees.
Yeah. So we actually did. So we got to our transition area where the bikes were. We actually went and got one checkpoint on the short trekking part before we got onto our bikes. Mostly because we were like, hey, like, let's try and generate a little bit more heat, see if we can get my clothes to dry out before we get on bikes. That was one of the things that it's like, well, time-wise, we could have used that time elsewhere, but oh well.
Quick note on that trek is that we heard a scurrying on the hillside to our right, and we all turned our headlamps to it, and I was like, I don't know that I've ever seen that animal. What is that animal? I was like, it's a possum cat? What's a possum cat? Am I tired? And then we went a few more feet, and we saw another one, and we realized it was a pack of baby foxes.
It was unbelievable.
Were maybe 9 inches long and poofy fluffy.
They looked like stuffed animals.
They looked like stuffed animals. They were tiny little potatoes made of brown fluff.
So
we
cute.
saw 3 of them. One of them had a mouse almost the size of its own body in its mouth. Obviously, there was a mama around because there's no way that something this young caught something this big. So we felt confident in that. But we saw these baby foxes both on the trek and the following.
We saw them lots.
We saw them a lot.
If anybody listening got any or knows anyone that got pictures of the baby foxes, please send them to us because it was so cool.
They were so cute. And I think everyone who was on that leg saw them because they were not afraid of people, which is kind of terrifying. But
yeah, it was really cute. It was really special.
It was nice to have a little pickup to see some baby foxes. So we get that one checkpoint.
Yep, we do our 1 foot. We come back. We for real change into our bike stuff. I just change into my bike shorts in the middle of the field because, at that point, you don't really care if somebody sees into your butthole.
No, I was on the ground with my legs straight out like a rag doll, eating potato chips with a dirty hand while putting chamois butter on my butt with my right hand and pulling my pants up while
and never the twain shall meet.
Yeah, I know. This is my potato chip hand. This is my butt cream hand.
Or is it this is my butt cream? Or is it
this hand?
That reminds me, I have to go back to something on the panel.
Oh boy.
So for whatever reason, this just got to my
there are things that gross you out?
Yes. So
never heard of that.
So some water got in some of our food, including Lauren's M&Ms.
My peanut butter M&Ms.
So Lauren holds up her bag of peanut butter M&Ms. There is 1,000% river water just hanging out in the bag, and so much so the M&Ms are white. The color has come off of the M&Ms.
And
so Lauren holds it up oh, there's water in there, and Laura and I are kind of bobbing our heads that's a loss. Yeah, that sucks. You can't. Oh, she just ate it. She just ate the white naked M&Ms.
They had the weirdest consistency. It was really like eating Play-Doh that someone had rolled in water. I needed it. I was so panicked about my calories that I planned, where so many of my calories were ahead in other checkpoints, and I was so worried about running out.
And you were eating a lot too.
I ate so much food, and I'm so glad that I did.
Great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Except for my friends were really grossed out by my consumption of river food. I didn't get giardia, as far as I know.
It takes 2 weeks, so give it a while.
No. Okay, well, the next podcast will be about beaver fever.
Yes, so next week we talk about giardia. So, that was on the paddle section. Back up to the mountain bike. Okay, so we get ready to transition to the bike in earnest. We get all of our shit on. I'm pep talking myself a bit about clothing. Luckily, again, it was my legs and not the top because I had an extra top. Lauren gave me an extra jacket. I was good to go there, but I was toweling off my rainproof jacket because it was so wet that it had wet on it. Oh, it was man. Very bad. I kept reminding myself during the Sheltowee FKT this last fall, I was there was times where I was colder when I started. And I just told myself I've been through colder. And I just was it will be okay. It will be okay. But oh man.
Yeah, I was worried. I was worried about you. I was. Because I hate to be cold more than I think nausea is my number 1 hate.
Yeah.
Cold and wet is my number 2. And then actual regular pain is my number 3.
So for me, it's nausea.
I'm sure there's other flavors.
Heat might be above nausea for me because it's such a deal breaker. So heat and nausea are right up there together. And the wet and the cold have not been as much of a thing for me because I get so freaking hot. It's
just been so long since I've been hot that I forget if I hate it.
I don't think it's been long at all since you've been hot.
Stop it. Ew. I like it.
So we're on our bikes, man, and I'm trying to think of what our vibe. Our vibe actually
we're lost. Our vibe is we have no clue where we are.
So this is when all my feelings came out. As we were transitioning to the bike. So if you remember, as we were changing into our bike shorts, I was I am feeling very insecure. I said I'm having COVID feelings. I'm having pandemic feelings. I'm just I
didn't know what that meant. I was just putting cream on my butt and chips in my mouth.
So I'm just gonna lay out all my feelings. Okay, so I felt because I have not been hanging out with people for this last year, my brain has told me that people don't want to hang out with me.
That's fucking madness.
It sucks.
Madness. That
so
sucks.
It made me feel like I was not good enough for people to want to hang out with me. And being in charge of like navigating and doing stuff felt like I can't do this. And people aren't going to want to be around or with me because I can't do this.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to use another metaphor other than the boat to explain how I feel. So in the mountain bike moment before getting on the bikes, I feel like a 4-year-old child who is holding my mom's hand at Cedar Point, and I'm just like, we'll go to the rides. We go to the rides. And it would be like if your mom looked down at you and is like, I don't know if I can take you to the rides, and I don't know if you'll like me if I can't. And I'm like, but rides.
And I was like,
and you're my mom, and I don't care if you don't take me to the rides because you're still my mom.
So I like...
That's how I felt.
But it was nice because you said exactly what I needed you to. You were like, we will take as many breaks as you want. Like, we'll stop as often as you want. And I was like, oh, like, it's okay. Like, and I was trying to be very expressive about how I was feeling because I felt so insecure this whole race.
As it turns out, even if we take all the time we need to recalibrate, to take rests, we are still a very good team.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah,
Can you internalize that?
That is the residual feeling that I have from this weekend.
Even if we take all the breaks we need, take time to be like, where's my gear? Is it on? Do I have to dry it at the fire? Should I eat more? Should I drink more? Should we slow down? Even with all of that, plus maybe more, we are still fucking rocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are.
Yes.
Not maybe.
Yes.
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes.
Yes.
So like so we started on the bikes, and it occurred to me now, like, I'm not well calibrated for navigating on a bike.
Because things go by so much faster that you, like, time doesn't make sense with your map.
Time doesn't make sense. And I don't think a lot of our navigation has been on trail. It's mostly been road.
We've only ever done road.
Yeah.
Almost all of their first 2 races were both on road.
And even Nationals was like big sweeping sections.
It was only road.
You know, where you didn't really have to pay attention. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this was like, I mean...
heavy trail. Almost all trail.
Yeah. Although, I think it's worth... So, trying to get to the first checkpoint, I was very blunt to Laura and Lauren, like, I don't know where we are.
Neither did we. So we just asked somebody.
Yeah, and...
he was like, you go this way, or you could go this way. And
this
way's flat, pretty, and covered in bluebells. And we were like...
that sounds nice.
Let's do that.
Yeah, but we had come up on a road that wasn't marked on the USGS map, which is not uncommon, but like it is hard. And again, it's one of the things of being a navigator where I'm like, should I have known that? Should I know? Like, I had no idea where we were.
No, because there's an older man team stopped at the same intersection, and they both go, man, this road isn't even on here. Fuck. They were both, I mean, people were feeling exactly like we were about navigation. Every time that we were a little bit confused, people around us were also like, what?
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. This was the first time I feel like there were as many people who were unsure about navigation. Like, I don't think I've ever been around so many people that were like, wait, what?
It didn't make sense with the map. Yeah. So we asked for a little bit of help on our first CP on the bike, and it helped. And also the trail to get where we were going was so beautiful.
Yeah.
So buffed, covered in flowers. It was just like, I'm dreaming.
Yeah, so we were at the Shenandoah River State Park, and like we got to do this mountain bike loop to hit up 2 checkpoints, and it was really fun. It was like single track and a half, super buff, like rolly. It was just like a great combination of things. Also, there was like a central intersection where everything kind of branched off, and there was like inevitably always like 8 people there. Yeah. They were always different people.
Yeah.
But we'd go out and then come back and be like, we're at the party intersection. Because it was like, oh my gosh, we're still not alone. This is great.
The second time we came back to the party intersection, which was much later, maybe this is wrong, but we met up with our new friend Dave, right?
Yes,
and
I think it was around that.
The second time we were at the party.
Yeah, maybe
we
so.
We were coming back from the first few CPs, and our new friend Dave, who's been a long-time adventure racer, was like looking at the map, and we had blown by a CP on the first leg. Was this on the second?
No, this is
later.
This is later.
Should I tell it later?
We should tell it later as we get there.
All right.
So we did a couple checkpoints on the fun actual mountain bike trail, like kind of had a blast and we're like feeling ourselves. And then we got to just kind of got to haul ass back to the same transition area we had just come through to swing through on our way to the full on bike section that essentially we had to do to get back to the finish area.
Just 12 hours of mountain biking.
Yeah, and like kudos to the volunteers at that transition area. Thanks, Laura Latanzi. Who they were encouraging people. I shouldn't say encouraging. They were stating like, hey, you're like considering how much is left mileage wise that you have to do no matter like what navigation choices you do. You should really be thinking about being out of this area at X time. Mm-hmm. And there was some grumbling we heard from teams about being like, well, why should we not be doing this? And it turns out because we would have a shit ton of time on the bike later, which...
It just wasn't stated very clearly. I feel like, or maybe my brain was tired, but like them warning us didn't come out right.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm sure it's like a sticky thing to be, and the race directors had even said something in advance, like, don't ask the volunteers anything, like, because they were saying, like, it really sucks when a volunteer gives information that doesn't end up being right. Like, you should always be using whatever your best judgment is and making decisions based on what you know. But we definitely kept that in mind and got out of that area probably just in the nick of time.
Oh, well. Maybe, definitely.
Yes, definitely. Oh, so we go through the transition area again. The same one, like the same transition area was kind of multi-purpose as we pulled out of the paddle, as we did the short trekking leg, as we did like the one-off mountain bike section. And now we're beginning our air quote final, transition to the finish because we're only halfway through the race at this point.
Yeah, and there is also another section of trekking that is... If you were to complete the course, you were supposed to finish with a trek.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Consider that.
Yeah.
Consider that when I looked at the lead teams finishing in the photographs, they're on foot. And I'm like, why? I was like, oh, that's because
there's a whole leg we
missed.
Yeah. So we start the biking and we end up being on the bike for the next 11 hours.
Oh, sweet God.
Which I'm always so grateful. Like, the same thing with Nationals. Like, if you would have told me that Adventure Race Nationals, we were going to be on the bike for over 100 miles, I would have been like, I can't do that. Yeah. I've never done that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know, I was okay. Like, if I would have started the race being like, hey, half of the time, at least, you're going to be on the bike, I would have been like,
no, thank
that
you.
feels not right.
We did less than half the biking we did at Nationals, and it felt almost as long.
So we started out on some road, but it very quickly got to trail, and then we started to climb. And as we went off the fire road and began up the trail, there was a team that was from the area, and the guy was like, have you guys been on this trail before? And we're like, no. And he's like, so it will seem doable at first, and then it will get more and more steep. So just a heads up.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were going to, quote, be climbing the mountain twice.
Yeah.
Which, mountain's relative, so, who knows what that means. So
nothing could have prepared me for what the last climb looked like. Nothing.
So this is the first climb, though, which actually,
it wasn't even that bad. I don't even remember it.
Dude, it was bad.
I deleted it completely.
The first climb was way worse than the second.
No, disagree.
Period.
No, the second climb went on for days. Literally days.
So the first climb, we went up Massanutten Mountain.
Uh-huh.
And the majority of it was just like a slow burn up. And then it got to be like rocky.
Oh, it was very
We had
steep.
to push our bikes up
It was very, very steep.
For a couple miles.
It's coming back to me.
I had to ask us to stop and take breaks multiple times, and before every single one, I was like, "Do you have to? Do you have to?" And I was like, "I do. I have to. Like, I have to stop.
I have to take a break."
So, like, again, I'm trying to like just keep my emotions in check because I'm like freaking out, like that I can't keep up. Like, going uphill on a bike is like it's just like the lowest honed skill that I have. Like, I cannot go uphill on a bike very well. It's so slow for me. It's so slow. It drives me crazy. But Laura was kind enough to remind me, one, she's been adventure racing for 15 years. You were on a cycling team. You've ridden your bike across the country. So, like, but it's crazy how you can know that, but still need to be like, remember, you learned how to ride a bike essentially relearn how to ride a bike 3 months before No Sleep in 2019. Like, you've been riding your bike for not even 2 years seriously yet. Like, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
Consider that I've spent 7.5 years watching the back of your shoes thinking that I'm not as good as you the entire time. Just consider
it
that
is rough. I hate it.
A long, long time of me processing, you're okay, you're good enough, you know how to run, you know how to hike. 7.5, 8 years of just thinking, you'll be okay, Lauren, someday you'll be as strong as Annie.
It's so stupid and such a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it anymore because now I don't worry. If I feel like you're stronger than me, I just latch on with my mind with a carabiner and think, do the best you can until you have to say, Annie, I have to stop.
Yeah.
And I have many, many times.
And this was such a good exercise, too. And, like, if I ask us to stop and we stop, like, nothing explodes. No one yells at each other.
No one loses.
Like, it's fine. Like, you guys weren't sitting there tapping your feet. I don't think you thought, like, I mean, I don't know what was in your brains or what you guys were thinking about, but
you know what was in my brain?
So not we could go faster if only Annie didn't suck.
No, it was just like that's what was in my brain. It was like, I wonder if I would like some new socks.
Good.
I was nowhere.
Good.
I was, most of the time, I was either nothing, like, whoa, 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 or I was like, I'd really like to go to Toronto.
But it was a gnarly, long-ass uphill.
Everything after this, in the second mountain bike section was all technical, rocky, some boulders, a lot of baby heads.
There was a lot of rocks.
Almost only baby heads.
Yeah.
And steep ups, mild flats, steep ups, and then wicked crazy downs.
Yeah, so we get to the top of Massanutten, and, like, there's a few people hanging out. We did a little bit out and back, going the wrong way on the trail, and then came back to where it was, like, descent time.
And this is my favorite part of the whole race.
This is your favorite part of the whole race?
Yeah, so we descended this crazy, wild, splashy, baby head covered, wild technical descent, and Laura and Annie are wild animals on a descent. Fearless, crazy, insane, also KOMs on the descents, if you look at the Strava.
Nice.
Blasting the shit out of them, and I consider myself an okay mountain biker, and I was hanging on for dear life, thinking, take the risk, Lauren, take all the risks just to stay with them, but also cackling with joy, like, splash! Baby head, splash!
And it was super sketch. Like, it was really fun to, like, go around people that were, like, which, honestly, to me, and of course, this is, like, lots of things where it's, like, if you try and go slower, it actually makes it scarier. Or if you're scared of it, it makes it scarier, which I hate those things because you have to just be like, I'm not afraid, goodbye!
Well, and so Laura has a full squish, but I don't know how you were doing what you were doing without... I think I know for a fact I should have let air out of my tires, but wanted to have less rolling resistance on the flats. So I was probably at 35 and 38 when I should have been at like 22 and 25.
Yeah.
So I'd hit a baby head and just get
Just
popped out of my fucking saddle and be like, wah!
But you were laughing so hard. It was great. I think you were just
fun.
like, I'm having so much fun. This is the best.
I was listening in my mind to my very first, not coach, but my first team captain, Mark Farmer, from Team 614, which is the first team I've ever been on, saying, trust the tires and let go to the brakes. And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm going to do that. So we did that. Tell me when I get to tell the story about Dave.
Oh, we're almost there. So we, like, continue to do, like, super muddy around rocks. And, like, I've never said this about any place before, but Shenandoah had the best mud.
Oh, yeah.
The best mud.
So it wasn't peanut butter. It wasn't sticky. It wasn't slow. It was just like slick. Like
silk.
You could zing through it.
Yeah. Although Laura did fall twice because of going through these super deep puddles, but it was like, hey, you have to try it because like if we can get through without being soaked.
So you come downhill into what I would call whoop-de-woo, and there would be standing water, and she'd think, well, it's possible that's 2 inches. It's possible it's 2 feet.
She went for it every time. It was great.
And she got to the bottom of one and went and leaned all the way into the water. I don't know how she recovered from being that wet when it was that cold.
Yeah.
Really shocking.
So we get to bond by a few people, and we're so into the descent, and especially me, like, after struggling so hard on the uphill, I was like, I do know how to ride a bike!
Yes, you do. You
like,
absolutely
do.
And
we get to a certain point, though, and I'm like, oh, shit, guys, like, I think we just, like, blew by the checkpoint, and to me, I'm fully in ultra mode of, like, never go backwards on the course.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as we go 2 steps past the checkpoint,
checkpoint.
it's lost to us forever.
But
luckily, there's Laura. Laura was like, okay, yeah, so we go back for it. And it was like, oh, yes, we go back uphill for it. So we set down our bikes, and we turn around, and we go back up the hill to go to a checkpoint.
So before we turned around, that's when we met this guy, Dave, who has this short beard and was racing solo male. And he said, I was like, we just blew by it. And he goes, oh, yeah, damn, guess I'll keep going. And I was like, no, we're going to go back and get it. And he was like, I don't think you should. And I was like, no, we are. Because I was talking to people while you guys were mapping. Basically the whole time.
Tell me what that's like.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's a lot of fun. Sorry, but it's a lot of fun. And he was like, we're not going to make it to the finish. And I turned and I looked at Laura, and Laura was like, oh. And I turned to him, and I was like, we are? We definitely are. We never don't. And we never don't, and we always will. And I was like, good day. And I had kind of a spicy feeling for him, like, don't tell me what we can't do. Because I've been on, every year on BFC, someone tells me, we're
not going to make it.
We're not going to make it. Every single year, I'm standing on the course, and someone says, we might as well give up because we're not going to make it. And that's the moment when I'm like, I'm going to leave you now. And I'm going to make up an hour and a half. So Dave kind of gave me that spark to be like, oh no, bitch. We're going to make it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what was ahead of us.
So we went back. We got the checkpoint. Also got to see Brian Gatens at that point, which was great. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you, Brian.
Yeah. And then we headed back down to our bikes. Got on our bikes, continued on the mountain bike section. We got to descend a little bit more than that, but it started to get into quite a few water crossings. And so we were kind of like...
what are those called when it's like a concrete slab?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Like where your sister got the car stuck once?
Yes. I don't know what that's called.
I don't know what it's called either.
But there's just like concrete like blocks that have been poured to be able to get across the water.
And there's usually water rolling on top of it.
Yeah. I feel like I've lost the next little chunk like right before.
Me too.
Oh, wait, no. Because we did the next climb still in the dark as well. Mm-hmm. So we chugged along for a little bit, and then knowing that we still had another climb, continued on, and then it was like, oh, yes, now we are beginning our climb again. I'm actually going to check the map because I think it's worth climbing, or worth referencing. So we got to the section where there was an easy and a hard route, which cracks me up because I cannot imagine having gone to the hard route because... even before the race, we were like, yes, we're planning on doing the easy route, which is what we did. And we still...
what could have been harder than what we rode?
We still had a super significant climb because, you know, regardless of which direction you go, the top of a mountain is the top of a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
So we cut through on a road section, we get back to a fire road, we do the air quote easy section, and then we begin the climb again in earnest up to 3 Top Mountain. And in retrospect, this would have probably been a good one to skip for sake of time, but as far as like being epic, we had to do it. So we climbed to the top of 3 Top Mountain, which if you look at Shenandoah, there's essentially like 2 main ridge lines, and we got to climb both. So so we get up to one of the last checkpoints that we get, which was checkpoint 5-6, and it was at the top of a fire tower.
Oh man, that's like both of my greatest fears were incorporated into this race.
Yeah.
Actually, all three. Rapids, having to walk up a fire tower that you can see through, and
bridges.
walking across a log,
Yeah.
also while portage carrying your bike.
Yeah. So we do this big climb up to the top of Three Top Mountain, and it was this big, like, gravel road or fire road switchback, but it was just another, like, like pedaling uphill.
Oh yeah, but before we got to it, we rode up and then walked up.
Yes, we rode up and then dropped our bikes.
I was a dick to the guy at the aid station. I'm sorry to you. I was in a bad place for a moment.
Yeah, what did you say?
Oh, he said, I said, is there water here? He said, no, you'll have to get it when you get to the bottom where the river is. And I was like, turning to Annie, I said, we're going to have to purify our water. And he was like, yes, you're definitely going to have to purify your water.
Like,
and
I'm talking to my teammate.
I said, I'm talking to my teammate. And it was the dickiest move I've ever made. But I wanted to be like, men are not invited to this conversation, this tactical...
No, thank you, sir.
...conversation that I'm having with my teammate about water purification. You're not invited to this conversation. I was a dick.
So we dropped our bikes at the manned area, continued on in our bike shoes up the fire tower. Lauren got the punch. We came back down, and then we just got to fucking fly down the fire road, back down the switchback. Was so fun.
Scary.
Also, like, this is when some of our lighting started to be problematic.
Yeah, everybody's lighting went out.
Well, actually, Laura's had already happened at this point. So
and mine was just about to go out.
Yeah, so like as we're going down this descent at like literally 30 miles an hour, my bike lamp is not working very well. My headlamp on my helmet is very dim, and I'm like reading the road using Laura's light in front of her as like my light, and just trying to remember what's coming at me.
It's very dangerous at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I was just like, well, like we finally get to do this downhill. You don't want to stop. Like it's really hard to want to stop. So we continued like bombing down this downhill, having a blast, and then we start to get back to like a rolly section. So this is when we get on the highway to hell, or
that's
whatever.
Exactly what it is.
And
thanks, Transrocky.
It's just this undulating, like rocky, like buff with rock on it, ATV
sand,
trail,
mud, water, uphill, rocks. And
just,
also, this is the time we didn't see any other people for about 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So Annie kept second guessing if we were going the right way, but there was no other way to go but straight.
Yeah. And we saw lots of bike tracks, so that was reassuring. But like, we were just on the same trail for fucking ever. And honestly, like, I was not like counting. Like, we hadn't like reset Laura's bike computer, so it was like we could be 6 miles past where we were supposed to do anything. Also, at this point, Laura and I had conferred over the maps, and we were like, hey, like, timing wise, we have so much mileage to cover to get back to the finish. We need to not get any more checkpoints because we don't have the time to even try and navigate to those. Even though the points were never really far off the trail where we were, it's like we don't have any time to spare. We need to just keep going. And so we're on this like undulating.
It was purgatorial.
Yes, it was. It was just like a ATV road treadmill.
There was no one there. It was just before sunrise. We had already passed the sleepy part of the night where we all took caffeine gum and had rejuvenated and laughed and had a good time. So it was after the crest of your caffeine and the time between caffeine rush and the first light where you're just like, I'm a zombie who hates life.
Yeah. And you're not quite to the point where you can smell the barn, so you're like not enthused about that at all. And like, we had enough uphill where like, I could not get any speed going. It just took for fucking ever.
It was so many. It ended up being 14.5 miles of climbing, which is, on a mountain bike, just take some time with that thought.
Yeah,
Technical
it was a lot.
Uphill climbing just for 4.5 hours.
It was a lot. And so like, we were on it so long, I just kept looking at the bike tracks and being like, it's okay, we're not lost. This stretch is just for fucking ever. It's just forever. It's just forever. And so we're like continuing to just undulate and undulate and undulate, and then we finally like pop off of that trail and we get to another road that just like climbs and climbs and climbs. Like,
but when we got to the road, we finally caught up with a 2-man team and
yes,
Dave.
Yeah, and there was like we caught up with a team that was having a bike mechanical issue.
Oh, so 3 teams.
Yeah, so it was like
passed 3 teams.
It was like, okay, so now we know like we can just put aside the like, are we on the right path like concern, and just focus on the fact that like, oh yes, we're supposed to be on this highway or this road that goes forever. But yeah, so we caught up with some people, and then we went on that road that like climbed up into the campground.
Terrible.
Forever.
Terrible.
Like,
I accidentally said to Annie, I said to Dave as he was coming up alongside us, home stretch. And Annie looked at me with the most grave face ever and said, don't say that. It's not.
I was so worried because we weren't even on the very last map yet. And I just thought like, if we still have like 10 miles on our bikes, like we can't start like being like, don't need this food, don't need to drink this water, like whatever's fine, it's fine. So like we do this climb, and like luckily at this point I was like, okay, I can sit on my bike and
you went into champion mode at the end.
Yeah, and I don't know like if the pitch was just not quite as steep. I just like took a breather.
It was just as steep. You just decided, I'm going to stay on my bike. I would look back and you would still be there. You just decided, it doesn't matter how hard it is, I'm just going to stay on my bike.
And I was just like sitting there, and I'm just like trying to like spin as like air quote as casually as I could to like not gas out, because and like it was awesome because I had told you and Laura like, give me any advice you can at any time, like I'm totally open, and you were like, hey, don't forget like you can get up out of your saddle and like stand to climb, and I was like, that would be great, but like after 3 turns my quads explode into lactic acid and they just don't do anything. Like, you know, I didn't even feel like I got to a point where like my brain was gonna quit because my body was just
I still have more feedback for you about that.
Okay.
Because you don't have to dump it down into a super hard gear to do the standing climb. You can keep it in just 1 to 2 gears harder than your granny spin, and then put consistent, slow, and even pressure on the pedals. Not like push, 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 but stand up and like do like a slow circle.
That makes sense.
And just try that out when you're like at Chestnut or whatever.
Okay.
Where when you stand and climb on a slight incline, you don't like give it your whole weight.
Okay.
You just do it. You push very gently.
That's the thing that I'm missing, because I only know like put it into the hardest gear and then like
you want it to be almost as slow as if you were seated.
Okay, that's good to know.
And you don't want that TikTok feeling. You want your plumb line to sort of be straight. Because when you do the TikTok, like, you're really working hard. You're working your upper body, you're working your quads. If you can just stand up to get your ass out of the saddle to work different muscles and try to keep it steady and pushing forward with the plumb line straight, you won't feel like you're losing as much.
Okay, I will try that next.
Okay.
I feel like I've gotten the like, I think seated, I was still early on trying to pedal at a faster pace than I could maintain, rather than just being like, what's the slow, essentially it was like, the key to success for me was, what's the slowest you can pedal uphill and not fall over?
Well, and that's the other thing is like, if you're in full granny gear, you should put your hands on the edges of your handlebars, and you should let your bike wander as much as it wants. Don't try to like make it go straight. So just pedal, and if your bike goes left, follow it left, and if your bike goes right, follow it right, so that you're not like, I must go forward. You're just doing it to stay on the bike. Let it wander. That's really helpful, I promise.
So next time I have 15 miles to climb, I will try that. I'll try that.
Let it wander.
So again, I don't feel like my brain was broken. I was just like, I'm just going to do what I can do, and that's all I can do. Like, luckily I felt more at peace with what I could do at that point than I had earlier.
Which is funny because you were going much faster in the end. Considerably faster.
That doesn't make any sense.
But you did.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened. You made some kind of resolution and just went faster.
So we just continue on this road forever. At one point I started to get hot again, and
we all did.
And I had my coat on, and I was like,
I
need to take my coat off, and Lauren said, Annie, we don't have time for that. And then you immediately were like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, I'm a bitch. And I was like, no, dude, like, I get it. Like,
I was just looking at my watch and looking at my watch, and I could see it was 7:20 when you wanted to take your jacket off. And I was like, we don't have time for mess ups.
I'm like trying to do advanced calculus in my brain of like, okay, which one is more beneficial and which one is more risky to us? Like, should I keep my coat on for the sake of time and explode into heat? Should I take my coat off, but potentially it take a while to do that? And I just was like standing there trying to do advanced calculus, and Lauren was like, Annie, you have time to take your coat off. I'm sorry.
My brain broke. It was like, we must.
It was
finish.
a valid point though, because we still had many miles to go, and we had like 90 minutes left.
Yes.
And
I was very worried. And you don't know the conversations I was having with Laura, because we were mathing up front.
Yeah.
And we were like, I was like, okay, how many miles an hour did we go for the last couple miles? And she was like, 2.4. And I was like, yikes. Mm-hmm. She was like, if we can do this, we have to have some downhills. And when we do those downhills, we're going to have to go extremely fast. And I was like, okay, so what's the chances? And she was like, at this point, it's going to be very slim.
Yeah, and I knew that too. But again, for better or worse, I was like, this is it. Like,
this is what I have. Doesn't matter.
This is what I have.
Doesn't matter what happens.
There is some freedom in that of being like, there's nothing left in there. So like, this is what it.
Which is so funny because you went faster.
So we continued. And I'm going to continue to say we continued on this road because this is what it felt like. Where we just continued on. I almost want to get out of this
conversation about it because it's traumatizing me.
So we finally get to a point where we're not on the same section.
We hit the T.
And we didn't know, because that's just not in my navigational toolkit yet. I did not know that from X point to the finish was going to be downhill essentially the whole way. We got to bomb.
In a pace line.
Miles and miles of downhill towards the Caroline Furnace camp.
3.5 miles of bombing downhills.
We hit a max speed of 32 miles an hour per my Garmin. That was all tucked away in my...
a lot for a mountain bike, I guess.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, on a gravel road, like, we were hardly ever on pavement.
we were not on pavement, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, we had so much fun on that section.
We did.
Like,
we were just like, yip, yip, yip,
the sun was out. Like, we're back to all the flowers showing. Like, birds are
starting
chirping.
To get the goosebumps. And then we see the sign for Caroline Furnace and think, we've done it. And Dave's like, we still have to go through the adventure or the nature trail. And I was like, no. And we look left, and to get up to the campground, there's one more fucking climb.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't too gnarly, but I definitely went back to my 2.5 mile per hour pace going uphill. I was
worried about that last climb. Yeah. I was like, this is the difference between us finishing and us not.
Yeah, and we get back to the section that we knew from having done the, like, fire making supplies.
Which is all downhill with water bars, which is the most... that was dumb luck that I descended that without dying.
So we get back to the last section. We're across the water from the field where the finish area is. We have to pick up and carry our bikes across this log bridge to get back to the finish. We managed to do that.
I'm so mad at
Getting back on our bikes. We've got 10 minutes at that point. We were like, holy shit, we're going to make it. And we pedal our bikes across the field. We get to the finish. Our official time, we had 8 minutes to spare on a 24-hour race.
Wow, we really fucking magooed that shit.
We did the most that we could in the time. Like, and, we were essentially, like, chasing the cutoff for the last 4.5 hours.
Almost 6, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say from the time we decided that we couldn't get any more checkpoints. Mm-hmm. And, yeah.
Wow. I'm very stoked on our finish.
Yeah. At the time, not even at the time. The race, like, was just so many emotions for me. Just, like, amazement at being there, insecurity in what my fitness status is, my navigational skills, being behind on the bike, not being able to go uphill, like, just, and then, like, feeling like, oh my God, we've done it. Like, I can accomplish anything. And then just be like, one day later, be like, I'm the most competent person in the whole world. Like,
one day later. Yeah, because we're like, we have a 36-hour on the books for 5 weeks from now. And I was like, I think with like 3 hours to go, I was like, Annie, I'm not feeling particularly inspired to do a race like this again in 5 weeks. And she was like, yeah, me neither.
I don't think I've been so scared of the idea of something as I was of the Two Rivers Adventure Race on May 29th, while doing
Me
the
too.
Shenandoah Epic.
Me too.
Like,
It's
I
being
had
in a 100-miler or BFC and thinking I can't do the other.
Yes. And like I had to like actively like push the thoughts of Two Rivers Adventure Race into a closet and like shut the door.
I almost had her. She was like, I know, I'm also not sure. And I thought, I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to go to an arcade and get my nails done for my birthday. But no, I'm going to do a 1.5-day race while carrying a pack raft.
Thanks, Rootstock Racing.
Thanks, Rootstock Racing.
But yeah, like I really during that race, the whole course of the race, I was like, there's no fucking way I can get it. I can get it up. I can't get my pussy hard for another adventure race in 5 weeks.
I'm still not fully
a
rock hard pussy.
I'm already delusional. Like my pussy is rock hard right now.
God damn it.
I know. I know.
All right.
So yeah. An epic adventure race weekend.
Incredible.
Just really nice to be around people. It was like a super well organized race. Mm-hmm. I know Adventure Enablers does race tracking as part of their business, but like we had live trackers on us the whole time. There was dot following for family and friends back home. They sent out links to download the GPX post race.
The pre-race packet alone, the design of it was so cohesive and beautiful. There's just nothing about this that wasn't perfect. I'd also like to say, in the end, big ups to Fragile Flowers.
Yes.
For winning first place female team.
Yes.
They won with 27 CPs,
yep.
And we got second with 21.
Yes.
So they did some hustling.
You are an animal, Olga.
Yeah.
It's always nice to see you on the course and like.
Always nice.
Hey y'all, we need more women in adventure racing. So the fact that we only had 2 all-female teams in the 3 and 4 person divisions, if you are interested in getting into adventure racing, there's a whole Women of AR Facebook group. There are scholarships for women to get into adventure racing. There's mentors out the wazoo between Stephanie Ross and Abby Perkis. Like there are just like some great resources. So if you have any interest, like message us, message whomever, like we need more women in trail running. We need even more women in adventure racing.
And consider that there are 4-man teams. We could do a 4-woman team.
Yes.
So, consider testing your bits with us.
Also, because I don't think we can laud this enough, Laura Comtois, you just complete us.
You complete us.
So thanks.
Heart eyes.
Yeah, so thanks for being on our team this weekend because we would have been less successful without you.
Yes, you are a beautiful puzzle piece.
It would have been less fun as well. Like, and also just the moments of like wisdom along with at some point I went to the bathroom and Laura was like, "No wiping, huh?" And I was like, "Shut up, you're not my mom." Even though I just talked about my keys to success for wiping my butt every time.
Before we close out, I would like to say that there was a point when we were coming back from the tower and everyone stopped to pee and my body was like, you have to poop 2 feet now. And you said, everyone's butt's okay? And I was bearing down so hard that I couldn't take a breath to tell you that I was okay. And so I was silently thinking, my butt's okay.
That's really good.
I couldn't say anything.
My butt's okay.
Everybody's butt's okay?
Yes. These are the things that bring us together.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Well, we can and cannot wait to race again in less than 5 weeks when we do the Two Rivers 36-hour race.
And guys, we will be, the goal is to do more podcast episodes. Thanks for your patience over the long nuclear winter. Lauren said something like, oh yeah, we would podcast more if we had races. And I was like, oh no, we would have podcast more if I didn't have crippling depression.
Yeah, that does slow you down a little.
Yeah.
But here we are, feeling good.
Feeling fine.
Being together.
So until next time,
we are Bird 5!